How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to UAP Tuesday on The Big Thing. This is our show where we take all of the stories from the world of the UAP phenomena and we talk about it. It's going to be me and my buddy Mark Reilly. We discuss everything in the world of UAP news. I do Monday through Friday on the Down to Earth Kristian Harloff channel. That's anywhere between 7-10 minutes sometimes, maybe sometimes a little longer, but for the most part, they're condensed. This is our long show where we get into all of it. And man, is there a lot of stuff to talk about. The big story last week was, where's David Grusch? We haven't heard from David Grusch. What's happened with David Grusch? Are we going to hear from him? And then we get an announcement. David Grusch, he's going to be talking at the SALT conference. Is he going to respond to tAARO? Is he going to respond to Sean Kirkpatrick? Is he going to respond? And they're like, yeah, here he is. He's going to talk. And then we find out he's not. He's being rescheduled due to scheduling difficulties. And my question is, don't you find out that guy's schedule before you book him? What the hell's going on over there? When is he going to talk? Is this, more calculated stuff? Maybe this isn't the place to have Grusch go? I don't know. Maybe it's in the next hearing. Speaking of which, we're getting more information about hearings. You know that Gillibrand said that she's pushing for more hearings. Well, there's another report that says Luna now says that not only are we getting hearings, they're going to cover the USOs more than anything else. That makes sense to me. As I mentioned on this show, we had Tim Gallaudet on the show, and he said that he would testify like that. I bet you he will. So what does that mean overall? Speaking of Grusch, what kind of claims were in there? There was a bit of a response from him, by the way, with that tAARO report. So we'll get into that. That Vegas report. What is the deal? What's the deal with the Vegas aliens? Are they real? Are they fake? I mean, come on. What are they? Because there's one video that looks like, oh, that's a shadow. And he's saying that's real. Well, there's a pro that says that's real. That's a real video. I don't know what to believe. So those are the things that we're going to discuss today, and maybe a couple of things more. So, as always, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. Very helpful. Put your comments in there. Share these videos. The YouTube algorithm is an asshole. So sometimes it's nice and it goes, hey, everybody, listen to this. And sometimes it goes, not today. We're not going to let people know about your show. But if you comment and you click like and if you subscribe, that's how people hear about the show. So go ahead and do all that. All right, let's get to it. It's the big thing. Here we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It is the big thing. Here today on the show, myself, Kristian Harloff, and as always, Mark Yodius Reilly. What's up, Mark? How are you?
Fabulous. Oh, very happy to be here, Kristian. I feel rested.
You seem rested. It looks like it's a lot different these days in the last couple of weeks. I told you, it gets better.
Yeah, it got better. We got a schedule about us now.
That's how it's working. Works. Yeah, you see, you figure it out.
The daughter is thriving and she's smiling. Good. She's laughing. She's awake and she has three modes: happy, hungry, sleepy,
and pooping.
Well, the poop is throughout.
That's throughout. That's true. It's all part of it, I guess. It goes together. Yeah. Okay, man, we got a lot to talk about because there's tons and tons, as I told you. I'm going to title this thing, What in the World, or Where in the World is David Grusch? Because this is like a long saga at this point. As we now, the first things that happen is, we get this report from tAARO that basically says nothing to see here. And there's a big report that says they have not found any evidence and essentially kind of going against everything that David Grusch claimed at the hearings on News Nation, all that. Then there was this other report that came out that essentially said, David Grusch said that tAARO never called him in to have a meeting. Sean Kirkpatrick says that they did. Well, we have evidence that says that that did happen. So we'll show you that. So people are like, well, where's Grusch to respond to that? And then they're like, well, where is he? How come he's not talking? We haven't heard anything about him. And then they hear this report comes out that they're going to have this SALT conference, and he's going to talk. And then today, they announced that he indeed is not going to. And here's the actual report itself. All right, UAP James reports David Grusch has been removed from the SALT conference's list of speakers and no longer will appear on the agenda on May 21st. So, and this was when UAP James announced on May 2nd that he would be discussing non-human intelligence and Earth during a speaking engagement at the SALT conference in New York City on May 21st. Again, not happening. So, Alex Klokas says, unfortunately, there was a scheduling conflict, apparently, is what they say. So now the second question is, well, if not now, when?
Well, it's odd, right? It seems like Mr. Grusch has kind of disappeared lately. He seems very silent. There's been word that he's going to release some kind of statement.
The op-ed, yeah.
The op-ed, right? Then there's this. There's news going on every day. You know, we meet weekly. You do a show every day. There's people on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. There's speculation running rampant. There's the question on, is there going to be disclosure? Is there not? You have people in the Senate talking, you know, there's rumblings everywhere. And yet he seems to be very, very silent. And when I saw this report, that's the first thing that came to my head was like, wait, he's very silent. There's something going on that I feel like he doesn't want to add to, either for personal reasons or just protecting themselves, or like, I don't want to add to this discourse anymore because it can be twisted and shaped into a narrative that he doesn't want. But yeah, you kind of set it up top. It's like, when you make sure he's going to be available before you book him, this in the X tweet itself, it says, you know, scheduling conflict. Well, what does that mean? I just feel like there's something going on that we're not privy to.
There's more to it.
It just seems that way.
There's more to it. You can't. Yes. You don't book David Grusch and then this isn't like, you know, oh, we booked so and so to be on a Comic-Con panel and then we find out that he's got to shoot this. It's like,
right.
This is like one of the most important people to ever speak on this topic.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If you're going to get it, and because of everything that we just said, of everything that he has, that has happened over the last couple of weeks, that the op-ed, you know, people are waiting to hear about that. People are waiting to hear about the response to Kirkpatrick. People are waiting to hear, the response to the tAARO report. People are waiting to see if there's more information that he can reveal. And it's his first time really speaking publicly in a while. I think like to that long since the Rogan thing, I think.
Yeah.
So you don't announce that unless you'd have this guy locked. And if you do announce it before you have it locked, then fire whoever's holding those the announcements, because they're terrible at their job. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, okay, hey, if I know that I've got so-and-so on my show, that's why when I book someone on my show, I normally don't promote it until I've shot it.
Right.
Unless I am so confident. Because I can't even tell you. I mean, how many times when you were producing Collider Live, how many times we were like, oh, we got so and so, here we go, yep. Look who's coming on, and like, oh, so and so has a problem, they gotta pull out of the show.
Yeah,
but that's for a podcast, not when you're doing a conference, when you're as important as what he is. So I agree with you that there's something else there besides that.
Yeah,
I wonder if it leads up to the fact that you've got this whole thing. So let me tell you a little bit about Gillibrand here. Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay. So a new feed that I started following, by the way, is Disclosure Diaries. They're good. They're great in kind of just aggregating the week that was, instead of like scrolling through 87,000 different things on Twitter and the internet. They have a good little update from April 28th, May 5th, and here is one of the ones that I want to get to, and this is Senator Gillibrand. So we covered this on Down to Earth, and she was asked by Matt Laszlo over at Ask a Poll about, tAARO and everything. She said she spoke to tAARO, and she said she told tAARO that she'd like to have a public hearing on UAP this summer. And she said that tAARO is going to put together some data and information to disclose in a public hearing to show what work they've done, especially examples of things that were unknown that they've been able to figure out, and examples of things that were unknown they still haven't figured out. And so she went a little bit more into it. She seems more, as I hear her talk, more of the kind of company person inside of this. And I think you need people like that. I think she doesn't seem like she's so much for the disclosure of it all. She's more of the, tAARO's doing the right thing, and she's like pro tAARO and all that. And then that's whatever, that's fine. But the reason why I still think it's very important, she's pushing for a public hearing. Now, the question is, the public hearing, is it just going to be the stuff? Like, is it just going to be like an AARO show to where it's like, oh, this is AARO's panel where I was going to tell you we haven't found nothing. And here's the stuff that we did find. And remember that Kona Blue thing? Well, we give you a little tidbit there. Bye, everybody. Bye. It's like, or are they going to do everything there? Because like then we'll get into it after, I hear your thoughts on the Gillibrand stuff, is that Luna is saying that there is going to be more of a public hearing and they're going to focus heavily on USOs. So is that part of the AARO stuff also? I don't know. What do you think?
Boy, you brought up a good point. I mean, they could really create a narrative if they want, and we wouldn't know anything, right? Right. Maybe they could bring Gillibrand saying like, oh, you gave a what if, like AARO comes in and says, nothing to see here. Here's the public hearing. We just wanted everybody to know there's nothing. If she's by the book, if she's like very like, senatorial, is that a word?
Sure.
And it's just like, being just, we're for disclosure, but I do like when you have the people that are very passionate about this, because they want to know not only disclosure, but they probably want to know what the hell's going on as well.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a little bit more reserved, it just kind of makes you, in this space, it kind of makes you go, oh, I don't know. This is great. It's like, how many different ways can we talk about the same thing every week, which is, I hope it happens, but what's going on? I don't know if they're going to disclose or not. Is it going to be this summer? Great. But just let's do this thing. We need some disclosure, but we have a story that's coming up that makes me, understand a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, look, the public hearing.
We'll get to that. But a public hearing is so important. This is what happens when you allow yourself to, and you don't release any information. This is what happens if Grusch doesn't show up and actually speak sooner or later. You start to fill in some blanks. You start to go, well, maybe it's this. Well, maybe it's that.
You try to fill in blanks. You try to fill in the blanks. It's like
you try to fill in the blanks.
Right.
Yeah,
you don't have any information.
Grusch is on the spaceship right now, hovering around Saturn, for all we know. Right? You start filling in these things.
There's a
without getting concrete information.
Yes, and there's so much that all relates to everything we're talking about today. It's the first time in a while where all these particular stories, they all like kind of loop back together to kind of tell the same story here today. As we got into the Gillibrand stuff, who wants a public hearing, and then we'll talk about the Luna comments of what she was said, again, from Askapol. Matt Laszlo is just doing a phenomenal job. I would really highly recommend that if you can support him and you're able to on his newsletter and the things that he's doing, because he's really pushing hard over there to get amazing scoops from people. He's talking to the people that are eventually going to make this stuff happen, and most of the time, he's the one asking these questions. I mean, Matt Laszlo probably doesn't wish this, but I wish there were more journalists like him that were actually doing this stuff, because he asked those questions. And there are other ones who still are in that taboo phase that won't ask it, but you're getting really good answers. And here's one of those answers. He asked Luna about it, and here's what she said. I'm going to play the actual audio. Here you go.
How are you, ma'am?
Hi, what's going on?
I don't know. You tell me. What, with the MTG, the motion to vacate next week?
I don't think it's going to go anywhere, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Not feeling it?
Well, I don't think so.
Any update on UAP hearing?
We're working on doing something with USO, so we're talking to some people.
Cool. How you going?
So there you go. Quick, to the point, and Luna says, yep, we're going to work. We're doing something with USOs. So this becomes a second part to all of this, and then it is going to put into the public, because most of the public, I will tell you, the regular public who has no idea, who just know by the science fiction of it all about UFOs, have no idea about USOs. Like, I guarantee you, because you and I just started kind of covering this thing over the last like 7-8 months, and I don't know about you, I was not familiar with the water element of it. Now I am, very much so. I was not, privy until I watched Darcy Weir's documentary, until I talked to Tim Gallaudet, how serious the situation is underwater, the amount of things that have happened underwater, and the idea that these things go underwater and the way that they effortlessly go in. Of course it should be covered, and I'm surprised that it wasn't covered really at all in the first one, but it looks like they're going to put a heavy push on it this go around.
Now, especially too, how water covers so much of our planet.
Right.
There are so many deep crevices there. You could probably find something there, including Godzilla. Who knows? I mean, it is an uncharted territory. I'm glad they have an underwater submerged objects faction, because it by all accounts, some of these things, I mean, even to the jellyfish video that we see it go in the water and then shoot out. There's something consistent there.
Well,
so
we hope. We never.
interesting.
Well, just to be clear, we haven't seen that though.
No. We haven't seen that. We just heard.
We just heard that that's what happened.
Yeah, that's the report.
Right.
That thing went in the water and then came out the water and shot out.
Right.
That it just with so many reports that is taking place over water, with people seeing firsthand it go into the water. There's something there.
All right, guys, let's talk about AG1. You guys know I love AG1. If you've been listening to my show, you've heard me talk about them, and I've been drinking them for about 2 years now, and I love it. Never been a vitamins guy. I've told you that. I take it all one shot, AG1. I put it in a water bottle. I shake it up. I'm good to go. I recommend AG1 to my friends. I recommend AG1 to my family. Everybody. AG1 is a team of doctors and scientists. It is tested for 950 contaminants and NSF certified for sport. It is formulated based on the latest science and maintains high quality standards. You guys know they've been with us for a while because you guys know too. You've all been checking them out, and everybody who's been signing up to AG1 says the same thing. It's changed your energy. It's changed how you approach things in the day. You're smiling more. You're running around the place, and you're sleeping better. I know. AG1 is the supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why they've been a partner for so long. If you want to take ownership of your health, it starts with AG1. Try AG1 and you get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/bigthing. drinkag1.com/bigthing. Check it out. Rocket Money. I've been telling you guys about Rocket Money forever, because there's a lot of times that you forget about these subscriptions, and you either pay twice for it, you didn't realize it, you sign up for a thing, and you're like, oh, I'll do that first free month, and then it's gone. Your money's gone every month. Did Rocket Money do what you wanted them to do for you when you signed up? Because it did it for me. I had all these subscriptions, and I was like, oh, and it lists it out, and it says, don't do that. You don't need these. It tells you how much money you have that you've spent in the month. It tells you, it gives you your credit score. It gives everything. I mean, Rocket Money for me is the way to go. It's a personal finance app. And it finds and it cancels your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending, and it helps lower your bills, which is the best. So you can grow your savings, because Rocket Money has over 5 million users, and it's saved a total of 500 million, saving members up to $740 a year. So don't waste money. Cancel your unwanted subscription and go on over to rocketmoney.com/bigthing. rocketmoney.com/bigthing.
That makes a lot of sense, and it's very interesting too that they're going to work with the USO on this. It gets me excited.
I'm more convinced. I'm more convinced than ever that Tim Gallaudet is going to testify. I'm more than ever that he's going to testify. I'm telling you, man. You go back and watch that interview when I asked him. The guy didn't even flinch. He didn't even flinch when I asked him. He said, "Yes, absolutely," and he is super well respected. To get his insight overall, what it is, But I will say, no matter what the hearing is, whether it's the tAARO reports mixed with USOs, mixed with more David Grusch stuff, mixed with all of these things, it can't just be what that last hearing was. It can't. It has to be more than that. It has to be groundbreaking. It has to be conclusive evidence. It has to be, because the first one is cool. Right? The first one is cool to go, whoa, you got this guy's whistleblower says these things are real, and you got 2 pilots who saw it. This is amazing. They're admitting that this is almost like the New York Times article, right? Now we're moving. It's like people, well, I saw this too, and a guy that I know saw it, and he saw it underwater, and he saw one in the sky, and then this happened, but I can't tell you this. I have to tell you in a private room. They can't do that anymore. They did that the last time. They can't do it this time. And the amount of information, there's one report that is kind of crazy all in itself. And that's this thing again with an unknown, I guess, whistleblower, someone who was in close contact with David Grusch, supposedly had a lot to say. And I'm gonna post this and talk about this. Here this is. All right, one of my favorite follows in all of the UFO community is the UFO Joe. It's another guy who just has information left and right. He's always following this thing. And so this is what he posts. Talked about an alleged former member of the IC. So it starts with the quote, Grusch was able to show the IGIC everything, all the true classified evidence for crashed craft, alien bodies, everything. No matter what SAP this information belonged to, the IGIC is cleared to access it. This is, again, the alleged former member of the IC. Now, this is an interesting take on Grusch's That's Worth Your Time. Dan Haug 6, what do you think of this? Any inaccuracies? You might find this of interest. My minimal comments are in. So, Anomalies Are Us. It says, here's a well-written post from a claimed former member of the U.S. intelligence community, which I found on a private UFO group. I've asked his permission to share it, and he's agreed, but wants to remain anonymous. He says, I'm a former member of the U.S. intelligence community, and here's why I think aliens are real. We'll talk about David Grusch. He's the guy who testified before Congress last year. Once upon a time, David Grusch was a GS-15 colonel equivalent at the NRO. The NRO is a DoD agency. They basically manage all the U.S. satellites. Grusch was the intel chief in the NRO's Operations Center. That means he was the top intelligence person in the Operations Center. The Operations Center is where they monitor what's actually happening in space with satellites. In addition, he was also the agency's lead for special access programs. You might hear of SAPs as being above top secret. That's kind of true, kind of not. Point is, you have to have the right clearance and the need to know to get access to any classified information. As NRO's lead for SAPs, he was read into every single SAP that NRO was connected to. NRO is DoD's main space-based intelligence agency. He knew everything it was possible to know at NRO. He also coordinated NRO's contribution to the president's daily brief. This means when it comes to intelligence coming from NRO, Grusch knew everything the president knew. He was also NRO's representative to DoD's UAP task force for 2 years. If anyone in DoD had access to classified government programs about UAPs and aliens, it was this dude. He said there's non-human biologics associated with those crashed craft. To me, as a former member of the intelligence community working for DoD, what that guy said makes absolute perfect sense to me. One of the questions that has always kind of stumped me was, why is information about aliens classified? Why would the government cover it up? Is it because of the War of the Worlds factor? Is the government just afraid of people freaking out and panicking? Would it represent a breakdown in order? Maybe it's the power of the Vatican, the church behind it. Maybe Christians and Catholic and the government are simply preventing word getting out because it would seem to undermine religion. Grusch provides a much better, much more powerful answer. According to him, there's competition that's been going on since the 30s. Countries have been competing to be the first to identify and recover crashed craft of all time. To me, this makes perfect sense. It literally answers all the questions. The idea that one reason for the secrecy is because it's a race between superpowers to back engineer the tech is not new, so I'm kind of surprised that this alleged IC person didn't think of it before Grusch said it. The military doesn't want other countries to know just exactly how powerful they are. If other countries understand your military capabilities, they can take measures to protect themselves. That's a good point that Michael Villa brought up during one of my interviews with him. If an adversary knows you have something, they will do whatever it takes, including, but not limited to, funding the hell out of it, to learn more about it and to try to match it with their own efforts. Think of satellites. Once other countries knew that the U.S. could take pictures of their country from space, they had to take steps to conceal their activities from a bird's eye view. One example of this is camouflage netting. You can spread this netting over a tank, for example, and from above it looks like more of a clump of bushes. Crashed UFOs, however, represent a massive win for the military. These craft contain tech that could be advanced by hundreds, if not thousands of years. If you can reverse engineer that tech, you can possibly render every other military on Earth powerless. The possibilities are mind-boggling. Imagine what you could do if you make yourself invisible, or if you could travel through time, or remote viewing. Imagine what you could do if you can convince an alien civilization to be your ally, like an intergalactic NATO, where if you were attacked, you could call upon your alien ally to fight for you and protect you. So what a given country knows about aliens, downcraft, non-human biologics, and it makes perfect sense to call that a matter of national security and that it should be classified at the highest levels. It also makes sense that the intelligence community and DOD would keep this information from the president and from Congress. I could easily see people deciding that it's too dangerous to entrust to civilian politicians who might make it public in order to get elected. Think of it. If you're the president in your first term and the election is coming up in a few months and it's clear you're about to lose to your opponent, you might be tempted to disclose that aliens are real, to cause people to band together to face this new threat. And they need you and your experience to help them navigate this. Plus, you would be the one who finally did the right thing and ended so many years of deception, and, well, you get reelected for sure. Or at least that might be the idea that occurs to you. And, of course, all that tech represents tons of money and power and influence. So thanks to David Grusch's testimony, we know a lot of things. And for me, it makes perfect sense now why UFOs have been classified for all these years. Perfect sense. To me, Grusch has as much credibility in this area as it's possible to have. But don't take my word for it. When Grusch brought this concern about the government cover-up to the Inspector General of the intelligence community, they didn't laugh him out of their office. Grusch was able to show the IGIC everything, all the true evidence, alien bodies, everything. No matter what SAP this information belonged to, the IGIC is cleared to access it. Upon examining all that evidence, and there was mountains of it, the IGIC said that Grusch's claims were credible and urgent. He did not say that Grusch was correct. In legal terms, this is an indictment, not a conviction. This is a little like a judge refusing to throw a case out but insisting that the case has merit. Except it's actually more than that. The IGIC doesn't adjudicate these cases. That's not their job. Their jobs are to say, hey, this case has merit and it should be investigated. The person's not making it up. For the IGIC to say that is credible is about the biggest bombshell you and I are likely to see anytime soon. This is an incredibly experienced and powerful member of the intelligence community saying this is legit. To add that it's urgent means not only that this needs to be investigated, but that it needs to begin immediately. There's a serious reason why this can't wait, nor can the investigation take 10 years or some ridiculous thing. Remember that Grusch's claims were that there were criminal activity taking place in association with the cover-up. People have been killed. Congress has been denied their constitutional mandate to have oversight over DOD's activities. That's not just illegal. That's literally hijacking the government. To say that DOD engaging in this activity without Congress knowing about it is incredibly scandalous. The way that the U.S. government works is with a balance of powers between the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. The legislative branches has to oversight over the activities of the executive branch, the president, the military, the intelligence agencies, law enforcement, going all the way back to the founding of the U.S. The reason for including legislative oversight over the executive branch is the difference between the balance of powers intended by the founding fathers and the tyranny of a king. The difference is why the Revolutionary War took place. The United States was literally founded on its very principle that this kind of unchecked power was not okay, a war lasting several years fighting over it. Grusch has also come along and alleged things that DOD will never admit to and that they cannot admit to. The number of people who would go to jail is staggering. Some people say there's no way so many people could possibly keep this secret this big. Fun fact, there are 1.25 million active top secret clearance holders in the U.S. government. They know things that is a felony to say out loud. Yes, things leak from time to time, but you can't possibly fathom the amount of information that's kept behind a veil of secrecy, nor how many people successfully keep those secrets. Having worked for the U.S. DOD for most of my adult life and having held a top secret clearance for most of that time, I can confirm two things. There's no job the U.S. government can't do twice as badly in 10 times as much time for 100 times the cost. The U.S. government is incredibly incompetent and cumbersome, so much so that it's a wonder anything gets done at all. The government is very good at keeping secrets, especially in the incredibly tight-knit community of special ops. We've already got as much confirmation as we're going to get anytime soon. It's painfully obvious that Grusch is telling the truth. It couldn't possibly be more obvious. There couldn't be a more credible witness. It all fits. Aliens are absolutely real. The U.S. government clearly possesses crashed craft that came to us from extraterrestrial life. They possess the bodies of the pilots of the UAPs. They aren't human. Grusch has clearly said they don't know the origin. Extraterrestrial is one possibility. I don't know how much of what kind of evidence you want, but this is about as good as it gets until this stuff is actually declassified, which will eventually happen. But until it does, this is definitive to me at least. Simple. We want firsthand witnesses who touched a craft to go public and explain to us why they feel this is NHI tech. All right. So that's a lot. That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
And I read that whole thing because I thought it was all relevant, right? Yeah, man, listen. This is, I always like to try to balance it out and say the stuff that, because you could hear all that and go, he's right. Absolutely. This is about it. It's evidence. Wake up, everybody. Let's find out exactly. Let's just declare it. aliens are real. Grusch is telling the truth. It's just not that simple, right? Because, like, no, do I believe this? My personal belief, I do. That's my personal belief. But if I was to talk to any of the naysayers or any of the people who like to, tweet out and say, nah, this ain't real, you guys are being duped, I can't fault them for it, because it's the same thing where you hear all this and you go, well, who is this guy? This could be a really good writer. This could be a really good writer who says, the chances of this is slim to none, but this could be a writer who goes, you know what? I'm going to add to this, and I'm going to say that I worked for this thing. I'm going to work for this. I'm going to write this and this. And it's not to say he wasn't vetted, and someone's like, no, I actually know who this guy is, and he's telling the truth, and I tend to believe that's exactly what it is. But you just don't know.
Yeah.
So, but let's start with that. When you hear this, like, what's the smell test for you?
For me?
Yeah, for you.
I think, yes, it's suspect when, somebody could just write this.
Right.
And there's no sourcing. It's anonymous. For all we know, they could have found it, written on a piece of paper found in somebody's backyard.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It was found in Facebook.
Found Facebook, right. Here's why it works for me. I'm taking it purely at face value, because what this person said makes a lot of sense. Just sounds... to me, it passes a form of a smell test. For me, I don't really need to know if it's like legit or not. It just kind of makes sense.
Right.
If you think about what we're dealing with, it goes, they bring it up at the very beginning. Yes, it's like an arms race. Who's going to get it first?
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to share that we have non-human intelligent biological remains, a crashed aircraft, the crashed UAP, on down the line. Of course, they're going to hold on to it. Of course, that when they bring up, that's my favorite point, by the way. If there's so many people out there that know about this, it would have leaked by now. And they go, yeah. Do you know how many active spies are out there? Do you know how many people are holding on to secrets that are just not UAP based, but something more, whatever, against Russia, China, blah, 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 blah.
Right,
That people need to hold on to secrets for the safety of our democracy, the United States of America. So I buy it, because that's one of the things immediately brought up. I remember DJ being on the show, and he's like, so many people know about this, it would have leaked by now. This person just kind of puts it couches it in a way that it's like, yeah, there are felonies if you share the wrong thing. There are lives in risk if you share the wrong thing. I think it really does make a lot of sense. And say, no, we're not going to do this because X, Y, and Z, China, Russia, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Will wants the same thing. We are trying to protect this at all costs, because reverse engineer, whatever you want to call it, this seems legit.
And what I always push back on when people go, oh, they wouldn't be able to keep a secret this long. And guess what? We wouldn't have this show if they kept the secret this long.
Yeah, and yes, they can.
No, but
yes, they can.
But,
yeah,
but this is what I'm saying is they haven't kept the secret. They've kept elements of the secret, but they haven't done a great job of keeping the secret, because if they did, you wouldn't have had a hearing last year. You wouldn't have had a guy sitting in front of a News Nation reporter telling him all this thing. You wouldn't have scientists and military people and all these other people who have done these things and have heard things from other people inside of the government. They haven't held it completely secret. Now, they've done a good job of being able to say, no, those things that those people are saying isn't true. But when people go, oh, yeah, the government wouldn't be able to hold this secret completely quiet, they haven't. They haven't. They've kept a lot of elements and a lot of things through legalities quiet in ways, because of red tape and things of that nature. Like, you can't get it out there, and they're trying to get information passed, and that's why you're trying to get these hearings to get that. They're very good at doing that. But when it comes to, people, like, if they were really great at it, no one would know about it. No one would know anything about it, because it's like, well, it never leaked. If they were that good about it, no one ever spoke about it ever. There is no David Grusch. There is no whatever you think about Bob Lazar. There is no Fravor. There is no Graves. There's nobody. There's no. This isn't real. This isn't real. It's not a thing. That happened for a long time, but there were still people out there talking about it. So,
well, well, I kind of agree with that. I mean, I agree with that in theory, but I think it really came down to the fact that we advanced so much in our technology that now there are so many people out there going, what the hell is that? Here, I caught something on my phone.
Too. Yeah.
And that starts to infiltrate the secret holders. That starts to get a lot of people talking outside of the inner circles and the government people that are. And sooner or later, there's somebody like a David Grusch that comes out and goes, listen, it's people are filling in blanks now, and they're saying it's this or saying it's that, but they want to get it out there because there is so much advancement of people. There's so many people now, so many examples of, what the hell is that? I've caught it on a camera. There's a video that we were talking about, Attack Peter, you on a text exchange, of a guy taking a picture of Tucson, Arizona at night, doing these filters, doing these shutter speeds, and just kind of, I'm doing a travel brochure. What the hell is that?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
There's too many examples of that I think it's
the New York flight.
People beholden to come out and say, you know what? There's something out there.
Did you see you seen that video from the woman who was out looking outside the window from Florida to New York, right? Did you see that one?
No, I don't think
man, you got to look at that one. You got to look at that one. And it was she's going from Florida to wherever it was, and we covered it on Down to Earth like a month ago. But then
I think I did see this.
But I did see and then News Nation covered it like last week, and now more people are starting to talk about it, which is great. And when you look at it, it's definitely not CGI, but people are like, oh, it's a drone. It's the fastest drone I've ever seen, right? Because you look at it, it goes so fast, and then when you pause it and you put it in slow motion, you see it. It's like this black kind of circular thing. And it is exactly what you're talking about. The woman had her phone, looked, and I was walking the dog the other day, and I was looking up in the sky, and as I do way more over the last year,
to do now,
way more than I used to. But it made me start to realize, like, if these things move at the speed, no matter what you think they are, if these things move at the speed that they do, how do you know then when you're walking your dog? Because you're not normally walking your dog like this, or walking down the street like this. So how do you know that when you're just casually walking with whoever you're walking down the block with your significant other, and you don't look up? How do you know?
Yeah.
You don't know. They're like, oh, don't you think I'd see it? That's what my wife said to me at one point. She's like, how come we never see these things? I'm like, how often do you look?
Yeah.
How often are you looking?
That's a good point. I mean, that instance that you were talking about, though, I'm sure Mick West said it was a balloon.
He said that one was a balloon?
I'm kidding. Oh, okay. Everything with that guy is a balloon. It seems like. I just feel like that's such a great point. We're not looking half the time. Half the time we're in our damn phone.
Right.
I mean, I think that's probably alien tech that was released early just so we get all of America and then the world to just keep their
and don't look up.
Down.
Yeah,
don't look up.
We need them to stop. We need them to stop looking up.
Exactly. Because this is the thing, but that betrays my actual point. We have video cameras in our pockets now that we can boom, boom, boom. So I think it is truly an advancement of the own technology available to us. And so many examples now coming out that it's like, I don't believe you do. I don't believe that you saw this. If I had this is back in the day. So I had a BlackBerry.
Oh yeah.
At the time I saw what I saw in Michigan.
Right.
If I had this, right, I probably would have flipped it out and started filming that thing.
Sure.
I think really that it has such a big point in this, that when you have so many people talking and it travels into and becomes viral, especially now we have social media, that things can become viral and so many people see it and so many people start asking questions. When you have all that, there are people within the know that go, we got to start saying something. There are leaks, there are whistleblowers now. And I think there is a rising movement that we are now a part of because we saw it last year. We said, we got to start talking about this and asking questions.
Yeah, but the legal side of it is the answer. I mean, it's the answer. The jail time, all the stuff, and even if it's for people from 50, 60, 70 years ago, it all leads up to what's happening today, and all these companies of whether Lockheed Martin and all these other companies that these private places that potentially have these things and have other stuff. If it is found that there are other companies and other places and other companies that are doing these things and in the secret outside of the working of the government, people are going to jail, right? And people, it'd be the biggest scandal in the history of this, not even just this country, but the world. And of course, if you're able, if you're on that side of it, and if you are sworn into this side that has been doing this for 70, 80 years, unless you finally have someone like a David Grusch who goes, this ain't right. We can't do this. We got to tell people what's going on. So I'm gonna tell somebody. Unless more people like that come forward, if you're still on that side, your best interest is to do Sean Kirkpatrick style and do what he's doing. Right?
Right.
I mean, if you're on that side of it, so because you're like, well, I've got to protect the shield, and that's what people are going to do, unless you're going to say, no, enough is enough. It's time for the people to know. You and I can talk about what we want to know, but it's the people inside of it going, all right, enough is enough. They're sniffing around enough. The Schumer bill is going to pass. That's the thing, by the way, that off of this report that we just read, or post rather, that we just read about how the U.S. government essentially is so out of whack and almost incompetent. And then you hear that interview with Gillibrand where Matt Laszlo was asking her about the Schumer bill. And you and I know, because we cover this thing, that the Schumer bill was gutted. He got a lot of things that he wanted, but for the most part, it was gutted through not just Mike Turner and these other people, but there are other people who were part of it. But she didn't even know. She was like, oh, I was under the understanding he got everything he wanted. And it's like no, the stuff that everybody at the freaking Soul Foundation wanted to happen. Like Gallaudet knew what happened. He knew that they had an idea of exactly what they thought was going to pass, and the idea that they were able to be able to say, hey, we found out that you guys have this. We're coming to get it. And that is what they said, no, no, no. And then there's other people like on Skinwalker Ranch. Those guys are like, no, we don't want the government to be able to have the stuff that we have. No, no, no. It's like, yeah, but it ain't about you. It's about the fact that we can. Yeah, we want the government to get it to tell us what the hell's going on. That's what we need. That's what we need. We need that thing to pass, because that's the kind of stuff they're like, okay, there's nothing we can do now. They're coming to kick the doors down at this point. We've got to tell them.
Yeah, and there's something interesting too. I always read into certain things. I hear things. I listen to podcasts, and sometimes you just get a nugget that will just pass right by you, right? And one of them is Corbell and Knapp's podcast, where it was an offhanded comment that just made so much sense to me, and it was just like, having a secret that nobody knows is a powerful thing. Right. It becomes like currency. Yep. It becomes something that is so important. And when you consider that you could either be sitting on NHI, crashed UAP, this will change the way that we have energy or technology or what have you, right? One of the most important secrets in the world, earth-shattering. That's powerful. That's currency. It is. It is currency. And I think that people will guard that. Now, I also think that there could be disinformation campaigns. Sure. I think that there could be little things leaked here, little things leaked there, and let social media do its thing. It is so hard to that. My opinion changes almost every day on this kind of stuff, depending on what I read. It is up to the public to educate themselves so you can make up your own mind. And it's you never know what we're going to get next. No, and it's also why you and I have been saying this from the beginning. As much as people don't like the mainstream media, and I'm one of them,
it is very important that they need to start covering this stuff, because regardless of what you think about them, they do tell the story to the average everyday person. And when there was something else that wasn't even UAP related, and it was something with like teleportation. There was some kind of scientific experiment. I can tell you exactly what the article was. Let me tell you, this article was something that I saw that I thought was fascinating, and it was that, I don't know, did you see this in studyfinds.org that said this is science and technology news. Near flawless quantum teleportation was demonstrated in a groundbreaking experiment. So apparently that in where was it? In Finland? Yeah, in Finland. They have conducted a near perfect quantum teleportation despite the presence of noise that typically disrupts the transfer of quantum states. And like whatever it might be. And whatever this whole thing, it wasn't a human, but it was whatever it was that they did.
It was a fly.
Is that what it was? Oh, no, forget it. I got it. I got it quicker. Thanks, movie guy. I'm talking to myself. But yes. That, whatever it might be. And I brought it up to my wife, and I said, I was kidding, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Because we're doing this big move to New York. And I was like, wouldn't it be great if I could just say, hey, you know what, honey, I'm gonna go put this in the house in New York, and I'm just, and I'm back. I'm gonna go get a slice of pizza. I'm like, that'd be great. And then I told her about it. She's like, yeah, that's not possible. It's not nothing. None of that. That's just science fiction stuff. I go, quantum physics, and I mean, it's scientifically possible. She's like, nah. And I'm like, it is. She's like, well, who covered it on the news? Where was it? Where'd you find that? Right. And I said, and I gave her, she's like, I don't know what that is. She's like, did any of the major news? How come that's not everywhere? And she's not wrong in where it's like, how come the news, like, it should be one of these things like, hey, listen to this. Maybe when they cloned that freaking sheep, it was everywhere. Right. And like that kind of stuff.
An example right there.
Yeah. They cloned a sheep, and and Dolly the sheep, right? I think that's what it was called.
Something like that.
Something like that. So, and it's like, until the major outlets start covering this thing, like until it's like, we can't ignore this anymore. That is when the pendulum, it'll swing. It will swing at that point, because it will at that point. But the question is, at what point will they? Because there are still people in Congress who are like, when they're asked questions like, oh yeah, that silly UFO thing that those guys over there are working on. That's still how it's looked upon. Whether we've made steps, but it's still taboo. It still is.
It is taboo.
Yeah.
But I always try to put myself in this frame of mind that, at one point we were looking at the moon going, we'll never go up there. That's impossible. It's just this advancement that we find ourselves in this world we live in now. There are things that we can't even fathom. Go back hundreds and hundreds of years to all of this, and somebody even said it. We covered it on, or somebody on News Nation was talking about it. I can't remember, but it was the equivalent of like somebody walking around in today, London. If you were cleaning out, right? And if you walk around, if somebody from the 1500s,
like a caveman, it was a caveman.
Take any point in time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's incredible to consider that at one point we thought the universe revolved around us. Right. And Galileo was being just absolutely, crucified because of his own thoughts.
That was Avi Loeb. All right. I love getting you guys good deals, and I got it. Roan. There's so much pain in trying to find what to wear. Whether it's uncomfortable, it's tight, it's never your size, there's difficulty putting pieces together when all the fabrics are different textures. I know it happens to me all the time. You want to look good without having to think about it. Well, that's where Roan comes in. They stepped up to the challenge, everybody. They got the commuter collection. It's comfortable, it's breathable, and it's versatile set of products known to man. They have products for every occasion, whether it's the most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, polos, blazers. They look great as individual pieces, and they work seamlessly together. Roan's signature 4-way stretch fabric, it's breathable, it's flexible, and it works everywhere from your commute to work to the 19th hole. It's time for unparalleled confidence without all the hassle. Roan's commuter collection features wrinkle release technology, and it is 100% machine washable, looking good is that easy. I'm telling you, I love this. They sent me some of this stuff, guys, and first of all, they have the kind of just relaxing, casual stuff, but I needed a good pair of pants to go with my suit, and my goodness, I got some for me. I got some for Reilly. We're looking slick. It is so great. The commuter collection is easy to care for also, by the way, and it stays fresh and it's odor free. Just head over to roan.com/bigthing. Use that promo code BIGTHING. Save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/BigThing. Use that code BIGTHING. It's time to find your corner office comfort. All right, you know what stinks? When you're stuck in a loop of rent payments, you're just watching your money vanish into thin air. It's the worst. It's time to turn the rent game around and start earning some serious rewards. How do you do that? That is where Built Rewards comes in. Built is breaking ground as the first rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent. Doesn't matter, even if you're rocking the old school rent check vibes, Built Rewards, it's got your back. They're going to mail the check for you. It's like basically having a personal rent paying assistant. It's the best. Every month, you pay your rent and you watch the points roll in. Use points to jet off on a dream vacation. Put your points towards a flight or a hotel stay with 500 plus airlines and 700,000 plus hotels and properties. Pay rent hassle-free through the Built Rewards app. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Earn points by paying rent right now when you go to joinbuilt.com/bigthing. That is joinbilt.com/bigthing. So what's funny about it, this thing that we read, like no matter, I will say this, even if it was somebody who just wrote that on Facebook going, I'm going to write all this stuff, I happen to agree with everything this person wrote, because the way that they wrote it was like, yeah, okay, look, you could see that it was, yeah, they didn't want the president to really be involved in it, because they even said, I think there were a couple of different people who said it at one point, that the president is kind of looked upon as, he's going to be here 4, maybe 8 years, and then there'll be somebody new. And then, so they'll be there for that long, and then we can just hide it from the next guy, because they're like, they'll do all the stuff on the, the stuff that's important to everybody else, and that let them handle that stuff. They don't need to know about this. And the idea, it's the lawsuits, it's those other things, it's the keeping it quiet in general, that it all makes sense. It all makes sense as far as like why it's covered up. And the question is, will it be leaked? And so that kind of transitions us into our next story, which is the Lou Elizondo of it all. Lou's got a website now, and he's got his book coming out. We don't know when that's coming out. I think he's got a podcast. I don't know. A YouTube channel. I can't tell. We got to find out what's going on with Lou. But Lou posted something and he said, ontological shock is very real. I have seen it on the battlefield and in the halls of Congress. The impact on people is real, regardless if one believes in exceptional experiences. Compassion, care, and understanding is what is needed now more than ever in our world. Remember, as a friend once said to me, impossible is just something we haven't seen yet. Thank you, Jonathan, for bringing this to our attention. This is from a report that says Unhiddenness, published in White Paper on the Impact of Exceptional Experiences and Disclosure on Mental Health and Well-Being. At its heart, in the simple proposition that the UK government should publicly acknowledge that UAP sightings and other forms of exceptional experiences are real, and that the people who are affected need better care and support. The Unhidden White Paper makes 5 key recommendations, largely for the UK government. These recommendations include the government providing credible information to the public on the UAP topic and the importance of developing a single joined up plan for the UAP disclosure in a way that builds trust. Launching the white paper, Unhidden Chairman John Priestland said, "We have come a huge way in terms of mental health in the UK in recent years. People's lived experience is now respected and believed in a way it was not 20 years ago, except that is for people who report seeing exceptional things they can't explain, where the stigma and sometimes the ridicule remains." Unhidden Ambassador, Rear Admiral, and Oceanographer Tim Gallaudet said, "The U.S. Congress has acknowledged the new reality of UAPs, so we need to address the mental health challenges of witnesses, which are fueled by the decades-long misplaced stigma tied to them. Unhidden, compassionate approach to people who have had exceptional experiences is aligned with my own values around the ethic of service. I wholeheartedly support what they are doing." This is very, very smart in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
It's very, very smart. It's the humane side of it is everything that they're saying. This is imagine Reilly, that I've thought about this too. And I almost even look, remember when I called you up that day and I said, I saw something floating around the house outside and here it is. And you're like, I don't know what that is. Yeah, and you're like, it could be something. I don't know. And imagine if it was something. And imagine if I was sitting in the backyard, like, and truly, and I understand this. If I was sitting in the backyard and I was like, Reilly, I saw a being. And I saw this thing walk through. I'm telling you, as close as I am to you right now, this thing looked at me and it walked through, and then it just went into the backyard of this other house, and I just stood there frozen. Would you believe me?
Depends.
It depends. You don't know, right? So it's like, but if you didn't, who I do this show with every week, imagine if I go in and tell my wife and she's like, this is getting to you now. You can't, this is unbelievable. You can't talk about like this. People are going to think that you're out of your mind, blah, 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 blah. And imagine the mental wear and tear it would have on you to carry something like that. Because if you even told a story like that anywhere, people go, yeah, right. And and that's just one extreme situation. Imagine you're one of these pilots who sees this thing, and you're like, I was on this mission and I did this and I saw this thing floating there, and I'm not allowed to talk to anyone, and I saw this, and I have examples, and I have proof of what this thing is, and nobody's listening to me. That would drive you out of your mind.
Just go to all the pilots that don't even want to tell you what they saw because of the stigma behind it. That's the first thing that came to my mind. The second is like an example of yours, or, if we even go to the far-fetched Hollywood version of it, Fire in the Sky, the D.B. Sweeney's character getting abducted and absolutely horribly experimented on, allegedly, by these aliens, and then coming back and having literal PTSD,
of course,
screaming when he would see certain things. I mean, there's examples that is in pop culture. Communion with Christopher Walken, having that experience where he sees a being looking around the corner at him, and he's cowering in the corner, screaming at the top of his lungs because this is affecting him mentally. You could bring up so many examples of this. And it is very, very, I thought you used the perfect word for it, humane, to consider what this is. There are people out there that believe what they believe. And I bring him up all the time, my friend Kai, who I believe he believes so much that he's been abducted, that he has had experiences with alien or NHI or whatever you want to call it. That is something it's amazing. But I think of Ryan Graves, and I think about his buddies flying out there that he testified in behalf of. When you are up there and you have that adrenaline going, you have training, you're flying, and then something buzzes you at however far it was, and that adrenaline shot that will go through you, that you could lose control because you were so startled, whatever it may be. It's so important. And then you just bring up the religious aspects to it.
I'm glad you brought that back up. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You bring up we have NHI technology, and turns out aliens are real. That's going to shatter people's perceptions of the world. It's going to open up new avenues of thinking. It's going to open up the technologies, all these different things. What is your mind going to do? What are my mind might react differently than we're talking about this all the time. Then, I don't know, Ed from Oklahoma, who is so religious that believes that, whatever. It's so important to consider everybody's feelings behind this.
It is. And I'm glad to jump back, kind of, as I said, everything kind of loops together. Yeah. One of the things on that past report that we talked about is the religious angle of it. And you forget, and we shouldn't, because they were the head of many different wars throughout time, and how important. I mean, look at the Crusades, how important the church was, and how religion in general, religion has been the cause of a lot of conflict throughout human history. Yeah, in a lot of countries, religion. So it's not crazy to say that religious leaders are like, no. Don't bring that up. Don't, that can't be revealed, because it questions what we tell people, and whatever that might be, whatever or maybe there's secrets that they feel that people aren't supposed to have that they're supposed to. I don't know what it is, but there's so much more to it, and that's why I think Lou posting that out there of saying this is why this is important. And Ryan Graves has been fighting for pilots to be protected for a while now, where it's a matter of like, hey, if they need a place to report things. So there's more protection coming to all this, because what I also think needs to happen is if eventually, even if it's a 50 or 100 years from now, whenever it is, if it indeed happens where it turns out that all this stuff is legit and disclosure happens, people who have been ridiculed and people who have been called nutbags and all these types of things, even if they've been dead for 100 years, should be justified and should be, validated. And I hope, on two sides, I'll say this. I think that if it turns out that whatever it might be, if it turns out that we find out that there is NHI, there is all this stuff, that it should be less about people on one side of the fence going, see, naysayer, you were wrong. It's the point of it is we're trying to all figure it out together, right? And on the flip side of that, it should also be like, look, we told you guys it wasn't aliens or NHI. It was other countries' equipment that they've been working on this stuff for years, and we exposed it. Now, can you shut up about the aliens? And then people should go, okay, this is definitive proof on both sides, whatever the definitive proof is, let's work together here. That's what I hope to happens. But staying on the NHI side of it, because the whole reason that you and I started doing this in the first place was that Vegas story. You remember that?
Oh my God, yes.
That's where that's where all this came to be, because yes, we were interested in the topic when we covered it on Collider Live when the New York Times article. We were interested because like, whoa, there's something more to this. And then the Lou Elizondo, the program, the Chris Mellon, like all that stuff came, Leslie Kane, and all that comes out, and that was fascinating. But then it kind of disappeared for a little bit, and then I watched that that documentary. But I had seen that story because what people don't know how this came to be is Mark Ellis was who I did a show with for a very long time. He was going to be on the show again, and in the intro, this Vegas story came about, and I said, and there's aliens in Vegas, and I brought it up in the intro, but I didn't talk about it because I honestly didn't think at that time that is the same thing. I hadn't watched that doc yet. I was going through it, and I said it, and people were like, how come you didn't talk about that story? And I'm like, you know what? I'll look into this a little bit more. So I looked into it more, and then that's when Reilly came on, and then Reilly and I started talking about it. So we still didn't really know what to make of it, that story. So, and I still don't know what the hell to make of it. But like but this is from News Nation. This is News Nation. So I'm going to play this. Let me get this News Nation story up. Hold on.
I want to bring in two people who know a lot about this subject. Ben Hansen is the host of Discovery Plus's UFO Witness, and Scott Roeder is an internationally recognized evidence specialist and founder of the Evidence Room. Great to have you both here. Scott, I'll start with you. You've analyzed the video in Las Vegas in that backyard. Edited, fake? What's your take on it?
No, there's no editing. That is an original video. We did a complete analysis of it, and we tried to debunk it to see if there was something that was added to the video. We used a vector tracking software that has an AI component to it, and all of our results came back as it was authentic. So there's something in that video. There's two things actually in that video. There's something that happens in the background, which I found initially, and I didn't even see or recognize the being or whatever it is above the fence until just a few weeks ago. It was pointed out to me by a subscriber to a friend of mine's podcast. But once you see it, you can't deny it. So there's actually two beings in the video at the same time, one in the background that I believe that the father is reacting to. And you can see it for just a split second when their heads separate. And at that same time, that's when the being or whatever it is comes above the fence. So I believe it's authentic.
Like you said, there's a difference between the video being authentic, right, and what it actually shows. Because Ben, there's this researcher in Britain who agrees that the video hasn't been edited, but he thinks he knows what caused this shadow, that it might be from the flashlight. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Let's rotate him a little, and we do actually see the torch. From our camera position, we can just see it about here, can't we? We can just see it over his right shoulder. But the closer he is to the fence post, the quicker that shadow will move from right to left.
Now, Scott, I understand you spoke to him. Ben, I should say. I understand you spoke to him. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's something not there, but do you think the shadow was just caused by the flashlight, Ben?
Yeah, I wanted to say congratulations, Scott and Finn, because a lot of people don't have the time to do this, and we have confirmed it's there. There's something there, but as you look at this analysis, the shadow and the light he's holding is casting through the slats of the gate, and the smudging that's appeared, I do believe, is a compression of the video because you don't have lighting up by the tree. So it doesn't mean, again, that what they were seeing in the backyard is something completely, totally different. They reacted to something, but I do believe what we're seeing near the fence is an effect caused by that shadow cast through the slats of the fence there. And when he moves, he recreated it in a software program that I'm convinced it's explainable.
Okay. So, again, I don't know what to make of it. I mean, like they say it took me a while. I had to watch the thing 87 times. I don't even really necessarily even see anything. It's shadow, but if I was to watch that, I'd go, yeah, it's the shadow of the father kind of walking in and doing that. So, yeah, of course, it's a real video. It's just the shadow of the father. This guy tends to think that the one guy who broke it down doesn't think so. He seems pretty convinced that it's something else. I think there's more to this story overall. I do think that these people, like you said about Kai, I think these people believe that they saw something. I don't believe that this is something where they're making, like, they just decided, hey, you know what we should do? Why don't we tell people we saw aliens today?
In Vegas.
In Vegas, out of nowhere. And then there's people, and then we're going to have people come to our house and check around and see if they keep coming. Because these people, they thought, like, shoo away tourists all the damn time. Because it's becoming that big of a thing. It's always this stuff though. It's never like well, there it is. It's a big green freaking alien eating pizza. There he is.
Yeah. Like Joaquin Phoenix in Signs,
right?
You know, where you finally see it.
There he is. But it's always like they're hidden in the shadows, or it's hidden in the sky, and it's like you can see the frustration of it. You're not gonna. You have to like analyze the shadow behind the fence, and it's like it would be great if he was just like, oh. And then he goes, he pops away. No, wait a minute. That was an alien head. Yeah, you can't hide. You can't hide from me, Mr. Alien. That to me would be more of like let's see what's going on here. In the same way, like where's the footage? The Miami thing, which is such a controversial thing to talk about. I mean, there are a lot of believers in that Miami thing, a lot. Yeah. But I asked the same question. It's like all those people, we don't get any footage of it, and if so, was it confiscated? I don't know.
Yeah, you know, I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at this video. For me, the headline was like, you know, an expert says it wasn't edited.
Right.
Well, there's that, right? That yes, it wasn't edited. It's the real deal. And I'm sitting there watching this thing, and then you know, buried in the news report itself is like, yeah, there's a guy from UK that analyzed it and thinks it's the shadows through the grates in the fence.
Yep.
You know, that sometimes I try to live my life on like the simplest explanation is usually what it is, right?
Yep.
That could be it. But yeah, we're not getting the footage of like, what is it? What is it? What is it? And then they turn a corner and there's an alien. Hello.
Right.
You know, we're not getting that.
Right.
We're not getting honest, like no arguing proof. This still leads to shadow, alien. Shadow or alien.
I mean, imagine like when you go back to all that, what we just talked about in this entire episode, where imagine you're part of this program that's trying to keep this thing quiet, and you're like, did you hear? We get Bling Blom on the phone, please. Hey, what are you guys doing? There's a guy that says he got video. Yeah, Zim Zam loves the slots. And he was out, and he got a little tipsy, and he wound up in a backyard. Don't worry, he hid behind a fence, and he turned himself into a shadow. Nobody knows anything.
He turned himself. There you go.
He turned himself into a shadow.
He's like, whoops.
Yeah. They thought it was a flashlight. We're good. Keep him out of Vegas, please.
Yeah.
Just keep in the water. Nobody's going in the water.
And you guys live so far below, we're not getting there for at least 20 years before that tech is invented.
Right. So I don't know. It's a tough one for me because it's like what I'm not going to do anymore, as I learned quickly from both the Peru stuff and the Miami stuff, is that I don't want to be hypocritical and say, not real, no, BS. I'm going to say, I don't know if I believe it yet. I don't know if because I think by saying not real, phony, you're adding to that stigma. Because what happens if it comes out down the line that all that exactly was true? What if all that Peru stuff and all that Miami stuff was exactly true? And yet I'm going, no. It's like, look, I can be skeptical about it. I can say I didn't see enough to where I necessarily believe it. But if you have seen enough to you believe it, then absolutely keep on investigating it.
Yeah, who am I to say you're wrong for what you believe? I mean, it's like, there's the part of the thing I hated so much when you're doing movie commentaries. Like, I love this movie. No, you don't, says Twitter guy.
Right.
It's like, what? Don't tell me how I feel. That bugs me. And I totally agree with you, Kristian. I see it. I think it's hypocritical to say the thing in Miami, completely fake. I know because I wasn't there.
Right.
Or this. If there are people that believe it, I think it's healthy to have your skepticism.
Yep.
I think it's healthy to go out there and make your own decision based on the evidence presented to you. And if there is evidence that, column A people think that's enough for me, then more power to you. I haven't seen it myself. I haven't seen any beans. I've watched that video over and over again. I still haven't seen anything.
Yeah.
I have looked. I want that signs moment that Joaquin Phoenix had.
Do you, though?
I think I do. I'm a horror guy. I kind of want it. I mean,
you say that.
I'll shit my pants.
That's what I was just going to say. You say that now until you have an alien-sized dump in your pants.
Well,
yeah. As much as even when I put that scenario to you where I'm sitting in my backyard, I'm like, I hope that doesn't happen. I don't want to see it because
I guess it is. Yeah.
You got a burger? No, I don't.
Yeah, you're right.
So yeah, I mean, it's as you were saying, it comes down to really listening to everything. You don't know. This is such a pun intended, otherworldly type of information that's coming at you left and right.
Yeah, and
you don't know what to believe. So anyway, there's a lot. We covered a lot today, man. There's a lot in there, and I just wonder, to me, it's the public hearings, Grusch. That's the stuff that's going to, and let me end with that question to you. Where do we see Grusch next?
God, that's such a good question. I think he finally does the op-ed. I think that's something I think would be able to get a lot of people to pay attention, and I think that he has something to say. Because there's a legend around this guy now.
Right.
I mean, he has become the face of this kind of disclosure. It moved the needle in such a way for me, especially with his testimony. It's something that is now kind of taking on a life of its own. And I think that it's until we hear. I think we could get an appearance at some kind of thing, but he scheduling conflicts, whatever the hell that was. I think an op-ed where you can't misconstrue words.
Yeah.
Whether it's in front of a bunch of people that then play telephone. He said this, and this when he didn't. I think something in writing would go a long way. I think that's what we'd see next.
Yeah, and before we sign off, I also want to make sure that I cover the fact of I mentioned the tAARO stuff and what the Sean Kirkpatrick and David Grusch actually did respond. So let me read this out again. This one's from Disclosure Diaries, who writes. On May 3rd, whistleblower David Grusch responds to reports that he refused to meet with tAARO director Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. Following the reports that David Grusch avoided the meeting with tAARO to discuss his UAP-related claims, Grusch released a statement to clarify his reasoning. He says, tAARO officially made contact with me in November 2023, as indicated by the email chain in the FOIA release. Prior to this, neither my attorney nor myself had officially been contacted in any way by tAARO. To date, my January 8th, 2024 email to tAARO requesting them to answer my security-related concerns I sent to them via email on November 13th, 2023 has gone unanswered. The DoD SAPCO and DNI CAPCO memorandums do not address the variety of serious procedural issues I voiced in November 2023 as it relates to non-UAP related compartmented programs as well as National Security Council SAPs and CIA Directorate of Operations Human Intelligence Programs. Protecting classified information is a lifelong obligation. To be clear, tAARO does not have access to the information I provided to the Intelligence Community Inspector General and the Congressional Intelligence Committees under the PPD-19 whistleblowing process. I trust in the investigative and law enforcement criminal referral authorities ICIG has independent of DoD oversight. He responds here, and it's basically, you know, they had that FOIA thing come out to go, hey, look, well, he said this and he said that. And Grusch goes, no. What I said was legit. They at that one point, they hadn't reached out. I send out this thing. They still haven't responded to any of my concerns. Haven't changed my story whatsoever. It is what it is. And that's how it is. They don't have the clearance to hear all the stuff that I have. So that's what I'm saying. I'd like to see a follow-up from the reporter that got that information from FOIA. I'd like to see his follow-up with that new information to go, hey, well, you know, Grusch claims this. Can I see that now? And then follow that up. So, you know, he responded to that, and I think he needed to, finally. Yeah. So maybe, you know, that he's this to him is kind of small fish in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, I'll address this now because when I come back to do all the other stuff I'm going to do later, this can't be something that I even bother with.
But yeah, I think that's another example of what we've been saying and what I really feel. It's like, you know, people fill in the blanks when they don't have all the information. This thing became a huge thing, and it's like he had to address it.
Right.
Because it's like, no, you're not getting it. This is, and he puts it in writing. Put it in writing. It's my theme for all of this stuff, I guess.
True.
You know, because he is so credible. He will continue to always be credible for me. And I think there's been a number of hit jobs against him because of it, because of...
They want him to be quiet.
They want him to be quiet. That's probably one of the biggest ones. So, you know, until he can... He's gone through again. He's gone through things that I don't wish on anybody. He's had, you know, family members threatened. He's felt like there was messages sent. That's not cool. And so he's got a lot to deal with. And you know, he's doing something that not a lot of people have done. And so we live in a time, you know, we need to, for stuff like this. We covered something where it's like we have to look out for the mental health of people. And this is the number one, this guy.
Yeah, for real.
It's his mental health. I mean, I asked Jesse, how is he?
Right. Yeah,
you know?
I remember. Yeah.
Because his mental health, it's something that is so important to me. The mental health of everybody. You know, and it's like we are looking for a universal truth here that can actually change human history and change everything we know. Right. And the UFO UAP community can be so toxic. And to even consider that is beyond the point of what we're trying to do here. We're trying to bring people together under the guise that there's something else out there that can absolutely unite the human race to something that I can't even fathom right now. And yet people are on the UAP UFO Twitter yelling and screaming at everybody, you know, and that's
human nature. That's human nature. It's like,
that is social media.
It doesn't matter what it is. It's gonna be.
Go say I like The Last Jedi on social media. See what happens.
Oh, you just lost us 8,000 subscribers.
I know.
So anyway, this is the report. This is Grusch. This is a lot of stuff with the hearings. We talked about a lot of stuff here. So I ask you guys, what say you? When will David Grusch reappear? What will he say when he does? Because it ain't happened at this SALT conference now. Should they have known about his scheduling conflict, or is this all part of the plan where we'll probably wind up seeing him at the next hearing when it eventually gets approved, hopefully summertime. Summertime's right around the corner, and this is when they had the hearing last time. So maybe we have one in June, maybe we have one in July. I believe we had it in July of last year, which is crazy. It's been almost a year already. So put all your comments in there, and as I've said many times over before, subscribe to this channel, comment, like, do all of that, because it gets more people asking questions. You want to see the condensed stories that we do, Down to Earth with Kristian Harloff, every Monday through Friday. I cover the stories of the things that are going to hit, but this is the long-form conversation where we invite you guys to come on in, have the conversations, talk about it in the comments section, and I couldn't do it without my buddy Mark Reilly. Reilly, where do they find you?
On the internet, at Reilly Around, Reilly Around. See you there.
And for me, you can find me at Kristian Harloff, all the platforms, all that stuff. And that's it, man. So, yeah, if you want to, as I mentioned before, thank you to all of our wonderful sponsors. If you want to help this show out, people are like, I really like what you're doing over here. I really appreciate it. How can I support you going? Because this show's free, man. You come up here, you come to the channel, it's free. So if you want to help the show out in order to keep us going, I tell you to get something for yourself and get one of our sponsors. That helps us more than you can even imagine. It helps us so much. So thanks for joining us here today. Thanks to Mark Reilly, and we'll see you later. Bye.